Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to Morning Coffee with the Foundation for Black Women's Wellness. Oh, there you go. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and Happy New Year. This is Lisa, Peyton Care, and the Foundation for Black Women's team welcoming you today on this beautiful Wednesday, February 3rd, for our very first morning coffee of the year. We are so excited and grateful to see all of you today as we continue to make our way through this ongoing global pandemic. So we are especially grateful to see your faces, to be on this side of glory, as our grandmothers used to say, to acknowledge and to spend this time with each other this morning. We have a very incredible show today, and we're actually very fortunate to not have one or two, but five guests today for a very exciting call with candidates who are running for office in Dane County. In fact, we have five Black women who have taken up the mantle to serve, yes, to serve and lead in new ways, because they're all already serving and leading in multiple ways, which is an incredible testament to their commitment to community. We have with us today Representative Sheila Stubbs, Ms. Brandy Grayson, Nikki Conklin, Nazra Wehelie, and Charlie Rowe, and we'll introduce them formally in just a minute. But of course, we welcome you into this space with the Foundation for Black Women's Wellness, where our mission every day is to empower a generation of well Black women. And well Black women must know our politics. We must know the issues in our community, and we must exercise our vote. And so today's show is really to encourage you, Black women or not Black women, to know the issues, know the candidates, as we get to know these wonderful candidates today. In the meantime, our purpose here is to uplift, refresh our spirits, and to call ourselves into action in a number of ways that our lives require us to be called into action. And one of those ways is to be politically engaged. With that, I'll ask our co-host, Ms. Aaliyah Stevenson, our Chief Programs Officer, to make some brief introductions of our guests and to remind us of our plug for our business of today's show. Go ahead, Aaliyah.
There is so much to be said, and to be honest, if I were to read each one of these amazing women's entirety of their bio and their experience, that would be it. That would be the entire hour that we have together. And so I'm going to do my best to provide a highlight of the amazingness, and they will be able to add on to very shortly and fill in all of the gaps that I may have missed. So to begin with, Representative Sheila Stubbs. She was born in Camden, Arkansas, moved to Beloit at 5, graduated from Beloit Memorial High School, went to college in Mississippi, also in Wisconsin, obtained a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, political science, and a master's of science in management. And she is incredibly active in the community in leadership, mentoring, volunteer services. She's the president of Bridge Lake Point Neighborhood Association, former vice president of the NAACP, Madison branch, and you have seen her everywhere. She was elected as Dane County Board of Supervisor, District 23, which is South Madison, on April 18th, 2006, where she continues to serve. And she has, again, just countless committees and boards, numerous honors, certificates, and awards. And we are really incredibly excited to have Supervisor Sheila Stubbs here as a trailblazer in our community. I am now going to move on to talk about Brandy Grayson. I just want to shout out West High. I know that's not the first thing on her bio, but we got to represent that. Brandy is the proud mother of 3 daughters, 25, 26, 20, one 4-year-old son. She has worn many hats over the last 20 years, including treatment foster parent, adoptive parent, organizer, advocate, activist, comedian, radio talk show host, CEO, assistant social worker, program manager, and the list goes on. She is currently the founder and CEO of Urban Triage, as well as Grayson Consulting LLC, and many of you know her for her work with Young, Gifted, and Black Coalition, which she founded in 2014 in response to the murder of Mike Brown. We are very excited to have Brandy here today. She again wears many hats, and we are really excited. So now I'm going to move on to Charlie Rowe. Charlie Rowe, who is currently sitting right now in her music studio. That's exciting. She is a local musician and artist. She has called the East Side of Madison home since she was a first grader. She graduated from East and La Follette schools. She continues her education in business administration and K through 12 elementary. She has worked over a decade as a teacher, thank you for your service, administrator, and principal, and then transitioned to a career in business development and social marketing. She has lived the last 6 years in District 3, where she is running, and she is now raising her 2 children there right now. So thank you so much, Charlie, for being with us. Nazra. Nazra is the founder and CEO of Empathy for Equity, LLC. Through equity and social transformation change processes, she develops strategies in building a culture of empathy for organizations and connecting with their employees and communities. We need that work right now. Her consulting business supports the deep alignment between individual and organizational aspiration and daily practices in transforming individuals. Whether working on individual coaching, leadership development, organizational change, or transforming workplace culture, Nazra combines her passion for social change with practical results orientation. Wonderful to have you here. And I have to say, the most succinct bio I have ever seen, Miss Nikki Conklin. So I'm looking forward to you filling in all the gaps. But she said simply, she is a mother, a community activist, a neighborhood organizer with ties to the Lucia Community Education Center. She is a first-generation college graduate with a degree in human services and a 10-year resident of Wexford Ridge. Excited to have you here as well. Did I get everybody? Did I reach all 5? I'm seeing some claps, so I'm thinking yes. All right, and we have a number of highlights today too. So much excitement going on in our community. We first want to give a shout out to the Itty Bitty Bookstore, the only Black-owned business on Stoughton's Main Street. Books provide diverse representation and storytelling, and every month they have a new curated collection. So please, please support Black business in Stoughton's Main Street. And I have popped the link right in the chat. We also want to talk to you. We can't talk about the start of a new year without talking about getting in shape and getting healthy. And we can't be in the middle of a global pandemic without talking about health as well. So make 2021 your year of wellness with free virtual wellness classes. I'm signing up today. Classes start tomorrow. Designed to elevate your health and your glow, track your progress, and get well. So I'm going to pop that as well in the chat. Oh, Lisa, you just moving too fast. I'm putting all the information in there too. Very exciting, very important, close to all of our hearts. February is Heart Month as well. We know that the Foundation for Black Women's Wellness began due to Lisa's mother dying too soon of heart disease. Those of you who know my story know that my heart failed at 26. This is no joke. Please, please join us February 20th, 10 a.m. Central, virtually, for Wear Red Day. We have an exciting group of guests, including a medical director, cardiologist out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and we have survivors here locally in Milwaukee who will be sharing their stories. So please join us. And last, but certainly not least, please notice this lovely sweatshirt that I'm wearing today. We have partnered with Pink Lily. Pink Lily is 100% of the proceeds from some of these very beautiful shirts, like the one I'm wearing that says "Together We Rise," will go to support the Foundation for Black Women's Wellness, a really exciting partnership during this time. So please shop for a good cause. And I will also pop that in the chat as well. And I'm done talking. I feel like I've been talking for a long time.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Aaliyah, for taking on the role, for making those introductions. I'm actually on the road traveling this week, and I really appreciate you filling in to do those wonderful introductions for us. There's no way possible to properly introduce the women who are on this call with us today. Each of them are so accomplished in all the things they do. I don't think we could have more committed women who are already deeply engaged in our community, and to take on the responsibility of running for office is a huge step. We know Representative Stubbs, you've already taken on that responsibility for many years with the Dane County Board. And as our first African-American representative from Dane County to our state legislature. Yes, I see Don Grimm out there raising the roof. We know Nazra Wehelie was appointed to her current role as alderperson for District 7 and is now running officially for that seat. So we honor you both for taking up that mantle, and for everyone else with all the things that you already manage from your organizations, your businesses, your families. We are impressed, and we just remind you, self-care, number one, take care of yourselves as you serve. And we thank you for what you've done and what you're willing to do and what you will do once you're elected. So again, on this call with us today, we have Representative Sheila Stubbs, who is running again for Wisconsin State Assembly District 7, Brandy Grayson, who's a candidate for Alder for District 14, Nikki Conklin, candidate for Alder for District 9, Nazra Wehelie, candidate for Alder for District 7, and Charlie Rowe, candidate for Alder for District 3. And we hope everyone who lives in the greater Madison area knows what district you live in. We know that you can go on the city's website and pop in your zip code, your street address, and it will tell you what district you're in. And I'm assuming that many of you are on the call because these women would be representing your district. So we're going to learn a bit about them today. And our first question is, and we'll start with you.
Lisa, before you jump in, I think we were also just joined by Maya Pearson as well.
Awesome. Good morning, Maya. Good morning, Maya. We will loop you in as we go along, and we thank you for your service as well. Maya is running for school board, right? Madison School Board in an open seat. And we will loop Maya into our questions. Good morning, Maya. So our first question is, tell us a little about yourself. And because we do have 5 folks on the call, we ask you to keep your answers as succinct as you can so we can get through each one. But we want to know about your work, your role models, anything important to you that you want us to know. Representative Sheila Stubbs, as your candidates get to know you deeper, what would you like us to know this morning?
Well, good morning. And first and foremost, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Aaliyah. Thank you, Black Women Wellness. It's an honor to always be given this platform. I don't take it for granted. But first and foremost, I want to recognize God, who is the center of my life. I would never be here if it wasn't for him, for his grace and his extended mercy that woke me up on this morning. So good morning to all that are in this virtual world. My name is State Representative Sheila Stubbs. I represent the 77th Assembly District, which is comprised of the south and west parts of Madison, includes the village of Shorewood Hills, and yes, the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I was the first African-American to be elected from Dane County to our state legislature. Can you believe that? In 2018, breaking and shattering 170 years of history. Only my God could have done that. In addition, I've been so blessed to also represent District 23 in South Madison for 15 years. I love South Madison. I moved to Madison in 1993. I live in Bridge Lake Point, and at that time, it was called Simpson Street. It was full of drugs and gang violence, and there were so many people moving out. But here, my mother and I was moving in a community that needed leadership. They needed guidance. They needed love. I moved there, and I've never moved away. Been in the same neighborhood 25 years. What I want you to know about me is I am a servant. I love to serve. There are many opportunities that I can be on platforms, but I choose the platform. Yes, I choose the platform in which I feel is the right platform for me. I believe in equity. I believe in being a voice for the voiceless. And I believe in being the people's representative. And today, I can say that I represent the people. I represent the voiceless. I represent the silent voices, the senior voices, the people who are trying to figure out what to do. And I am blessed and I'm honored. And I want you to remember that my name is State Representative Sheila Stubbs. God bless you. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. And just to plug Representative Stubbs, we know we wanted to call out some specific legislation that you've proposed lately. We know that you've been a huge proponent on so many levels around equity, civil rights, human rights, environmental justice, workplace equity, all those things. But one issue that's very special to us that we covered earlier this year is hair justice for Black women in the workplace and beyond. Earlier this year, we had a show with representatives and folks in California and nationally who've been pushing the Crown Act that would eliminate workplace and other discrimination against women, Black women, for how we wear our hair, our natural hair. It's ridiculous in 2021 that we're still talking about having a right to look the way we want when we walk into spaces outside of our home. And we know that you've been championing similar legislation here in the state of Wisconsin and Dane County. Can you tell us about that very quickly?
Yes, ma'am. Well, I am so honored to say that Dane County last month unanimously passed the Crown Act. It is really important that we made sure our ordinance amendment included no discrimination based on your natural hairstyles, your braids, your twists, and your locks. I know for sure that we have, as African American women, probably been exposed to some work environments that have their specific grooming practices, and we didn't fit their particular normality. And so it's important for me to make sure Dane County made it clear that if you discriminate against someone who's wearing natural hairstyles, that there is going to be penalties. And in fact, if you have a vendor opportunity with us, if you have a memorandum of understanding with us, we will make sure that we will no longer continue to have services with you. You will immediately come into compliance. And that was important for me. I've been discriminated against on a job for wearing braids. So I know firsthand what it was like. And I am honored and I was proud to stand up and stand with every one of my colleagues and pass the Crown Act unanimously in Dane County.
You know, that's powerful. And we're so happy that in this venue, you could share that with us. I was not aware that it passed already. I knew you had introduced it. Some folks don't have to worry about these things, but this is a very special piece of legislation for Black women. I too have been directly discriminated against in the past for wearing natural hair to work and urged by my higher ups to change my hair to fit into company culture. So this is very personal. It's a major issue. There are some states that still have restrictive laws that would not permit me to wear the locks that you see on my hair today. That's a human right to determine how you wear your hair, I do believe. So just so you know, in Dane County, Black women, we can work in a workplace with the freedom to go as we wish. That is how policy and practice is changed. And as you speak about the piece with companies having to comply to be in contract relationship with our county, that is how we do systems level and cultural change. So we thank you, Representative Stubbs. Nasra Wehelie, what would you like us to know about you this morning to better help our guests understand you as a candidate? You're on mute.
Sorry.
There you go.
Thank you, everyone. And, I'm really glad I'm here with this phenomenal, beautiful, and powerful women. So just to give you a little bit about myself, I have been in Madison for the last 30 years. Originally from Somalia, and went to UW-Madison, raised my 4 children. 3 are adults, 27, 25, 23, and 16 years old. I have been really strong advocate in community engagement. I have been very much involved in the community, especially when 9/11 hit in America. And one of the area that I really focused was youth development. See, when you have Muslim identity, it was really difficult to retain your Muslim identity as well as American identity. So I was the founder of Muslim Youth of Madison, where I empowered Muslim women, Muslim youth to have the space where they can thrive and inspire themselves and work hard in school. And that really helped me inject myself into nonprofit. So I have lived in District 7 for the last 22 years. And it started when we built our house, it was like farmland. and now it's multi-family home. So it's really inspiring to see the transformation of this district. And the other thing that I want to talk about is that's really dear to me is the working at the Madison Area Urban Ministry, currently known as Just Dane, really inspired me, the work that they do, and really helped me understand the work and the word of empathy, how we help individuals coming to the community when they're incarcerated so that we don't stigmatize them and just alienate them and help them integrate in the community. So that's one of the area that really inspired me. As I have undertaken the role of interim district for District 7, I was able to talk to some of my constituents, and the challenge that they brought upon District 7 is the petty crime. And that was not really something that was unusual, but then what I'm really interested in, what are we doing with these young youth who are committing the crime, but how we can be able to address the root causes. Because when we see incarceration, we just stigmatize them and we put them away. So my hope is working with the city in terms of developing some really direct service, but also root causes based, so that we can help those individuals. But also, like as a woman of Muslim and woman of color, Sheila, I can see the challenge of Black women hair, but also some of the challenge I went through is as a woman who is Muslim, who's wearing the headscarf. A lot of the time, people think that I'm oppressed and I'm forced to wear the headscarf. And that's one of the challenges that I go through in Madison. So there's a lot of narratives, and I'm trying to change the narrative. And being in the community, whether it's the business community, whether it's nonprofit community, but also the social change, space, is really empowering. And especially, working with individuals who are really passionate about the changing the narrative. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity. I'm a graduate of UW-Madison from my undergraduate, and had my MBA from Cardinal Street University.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Nasra. And yes, there are so many parallels between our experiences as women, as Black women, as Muslim women, on so many fronts. And I'm happy that you brought that to the forefront in your comments, as well as all the other pieces. And we will ask each candidate later to help us understand what the issues are that they feel are most deeply impacting their districts. Brandy Grayson, what would you like us to know about you this morning as folks get to know you in a different light as a candidate beyond all the other roles that we know you to be?
All right now, well, good morning, my people. Well, I don't know, I'm pretty vulnerable and authentic, and I'm pretty transparent in my world. So if you need to know anything, just follow me on Facebook, okay? But I would just say, as a candidate, for Alder District 14, which includes Leopold Way, Bram Hill, Arbor Hills, Monona, Lake Point area, Moreland Road, Rimrock, Brer Oaks, Indian Trail, Capitol View. It's a huge district, and it's broken up and weird. It's just weird. But vote for me. Okay, let's start there. And second, I just want to remind you guys that me running for office is revolutionary in itself, right? There has never been a point of time in Madison's political arena and platform that someone as loud as me, bold as me, and matter of fact as me have been even has been given the opportunity and the resources and the support to move like I've been able to move in Madison, right? I've been able to create and develop an organization, Urban Triage Inc., founded and grounded in Black liberation, Black voices, Black needs, Black communities, rooted in transformational education. We are literally supporting Black people in the process of unplugging, detaching from white narratives, white supremacy constructs, and ideology about who we are, right? Because in doing so, it is my goal and vision to help Black people really live authentically and self-express without feeling like they need to tiptoe around white politics or white constructs, whether it's our hair or otherwise, right? Just the fact that we have to pass this legislation in itself is a joke, right? Like, so this idea that we have to conform, I just want y'all to know that as someone who is radical revolutionary and centering humanists and people, there would never be a point where I will play politics that put me outside of my integrity and my values to my people, right? So when I say that I stand for the people, by the people, I mean it to my core. There is no exception to that. There's no, well, let's negotiate because we're going to do this for equity, or we're going to choose our token person, organization. I don't care nothing about that, right? Like, justice is being our word. Justice is grounded and founding ourselves in our values. And if we don't have values and we don't have integrity, then we automatically default and become part of the system. And that is the challenge with politics, is that we often start off doing it for the right intention, and then we become eroded, right? We end up swimming in this context and insidious nature, and I would say the virus of white supremacy, and we become infected. And I just want y'all to know that nothing I have done and created has been achieved without my community, right? Without the support and without me standing in integrity. And when I say that, that doesn't mean that there will not be growing moments. I might get things wrong. And it is my responsibility and your responsibility as my constituents and my community to hold me accountable, because accountability is how we push change. Accountability is how we get things done and operate outside of status quo and social constructs. Part of white supremacy, racism, and politics is, please don't hurt my feelings. Please don't confront me when I'm wrong. Please don't say it out loud in front of other people. And this dichotomy and this relationship between our race, right? This idea that as Black people, we can't hold other Black people accountable, even when they're bearing the torch of white supremacy. So you know me, I don't rock that way. I'm for the people, by the people. If you aggress against one, you aggress against all. And it is necessary for us to hold you accountable through conversation, policy, resolution, or whatever. And that will not change. You know, people are just waiting for me to adjust and conform. That's just not part of my world or my heart. I love Black people. I love the fact that I've grown to accept all of me, my hair, my rags. Sometimes you see me with my hair all over. Sometimes you see me with a beautiful wrap. Sometimes you see me crying and being like, I just can't believe this. Sometimes you hear me jamming and dropping it like it's hot. And sometimes you have me in conversations where we're having intellectual conversations and using words and language that may be outside the box for some people. And my whole point is that Black people aren't monolithic, and we actually get to exist in our full self and our full capacity without being restricted by these narratives of Black inferiority and Black criminality, which, by the way, must exist in order for white supremacy to continue on. And white supremacy is made possible through all of our acceptance of it and alignment, and oftentimes our complacency and our denial. So I'm just here in my full-blown beautiful self to remind y'all that change comes when we're willing to actually take the risk and be authentically 100% us. So thank you for having me, as always. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, and you know what, Brandy, as you were saying your closing words, I was thinking about my response, and the thing that came right out is that you're bringing your full, authentic self. I would say that Black women, as we run for office, are really bringing our full, authentic selves into the place of office. When we think about office, think about politics, there's a lot of positioning and there's a lot of smokescreen, you know, there's a lot of imagery that politicians traditionally place. What you see in front of you may not necessarily be who that person is all the time. But Black women are coming into this space in a wholly different way and changing politics to be really representative of our lives and our experiences and our communities and what the real issues are. And I think that we're changing the landscape of politics by entering as who we truly are and forcing the world to change, not conforming to that world ourselves. So I just really want to bring that out in honor of you and all of you who are here today. And with that, we will ask Charlie Rowe, tell us about you this morning as the candidate for Alder for District 3.
Thank you for having me first, Lisa, and everybody involved here. Your words just now really spoke, I guess would be the word, to my heart. There's language that I'm using in my campaign to become the Alder of my district. Located on the east side of Madison, my friend said, absolutely do not do what you do when you talk about where you grew up, which is, I always say, I am east side Madison, Wisconsin for life, which if you came from here, you get it. If you didn't, you don't. And you're like, why is she doing that? But I have no option to be anybody but who I am. I'm using words purposefully and with intent in my campaign. I've used the words, I'm an atypical candidate. It speaks not only to my ASD and being a 44-and-a-half-year-old woman with Asperger's, but it also speaks to the fact that I am not a politician. I am not, I haven't had motivation, let me say, to step into this forum, but who I am and who I have been seen to be and who I have been shaped to be on the east side of Madison has given me no option but to rise and to step into this platform. I've been a grassroots community builder. I have created different social enterprises. Crow Collective is my personal project. I work with artists and musicians and local businesses and dreamers and visionaries on humanitarian causes that are close to my heart. There's so much time being spent on the language that we are using. And I'll just be frank and honest. Lisa, I'm gonna thank you for inviting me to a Black woman's conversation. I have often been left out of them because of the shade of my skin or because of the shade of my mother's skin. I can trace my roots on my father's side to not only the Crow tribe, the Cherokee tribe, but also to 2 tribes on the west coast of Africa. We have land in Jamaica because my family, my ancestors were involved in the slave trade. I like to say that it's in my genes to be bipartisan. There's a new movie coming out based on a really powerful book called Passing. The 3 main women involved, I'll leave it to you to go look into it. It is a story of women of all shades in America. I am living in a modern day age of passing. To some who are racist, who live with the mindset of white supremacy, who have dominated my lives and your lives for far too long by their policy and legislation, I am Black, I am dark, I am been treated with misogynistic ways, I have been raped by local business owners, I have sat in front of my common council and said, this was done to me by the Madison police, and they have turned their backs on me. And there's no doubt racism was involved. But I've also had the opportunity, being raised on the east side of Madison by a middle-class white woman, to have a quality education that I have been, without my knowledge, used as a token. And these awakenings of our society and the call to realize the actual racism that has been guiding our economic systems, our environmental, we know the issues, we'll get into that. I'm running because I am the poster child for these issues. I have lived in the 2 different Madisons that exist. I have been working to protect abused women. I've been, look at what I've been doing, it's out there. It's time that we step into the system to change it. My very first foray into the system was at La Follette High School. I'm in 1992, I was a junior on student council because I knew I had a voice and I had things to say and I could shape the environment and the narrative. I created a program called SOAR. I have seen the generation that have come from that. It was students of all races at that time. I was selected at that time to be on the school board as a committee member. I got to vote. I got to shape legislations. I was on the Student Affairs Committee. Please note that that committee member was left out of my first mailer, and publicly I'm owning that because I want to be transparent. I was able to vote and hear and listen. And when I decided that we needed somebody in District 3 that had lived through these issues, and I'm also telling people I'm your dark horse candidate for so many reasons. But I knocked on doors the night before in snow, and I talked to people. I heard what they wanted. I heard why they weren't happy with the current Alder. I got my nominations from my neighbors. I've lived in both worlds, and I want to listen. I want to change Madison because we're not equal. And that's why I'm here. So thank you.
Awesome. Wow. There was so much wrapped into your comments. And there was one thing that you said, Charlie, that I think all of you, and it's so interesting that on my screen, all 5 candidates, y'all are in a straight line row right in front of my line of sight. You said, my life experiences has given me no option but to rise. I think that's what Black women are doing nationally, and taking up the responsibility to run for office, to change policies, to change structures, to change systems. And I know that each one of you were motivated by that for different reasons, as we hear all the personal stories that have compelled you all to run, to change and uplift our community. Nikki Conklin, last but not least, Nikki, I just want to acknowledge you as someone I've known for many, many years. I've witnessed your community activism. I've witnessed your motherhood, your family life. I've witnessed your grassroots outreach. And I know that you've been thinking about this for a very long time. And I know it took tremendous courage to say, I'm going to do it. So I just want to clap you up this morning, because I know the thought process and that you stepped out there. I've been seeing you out there speaking and doing forums. And I just want to say congratulations to you in advance for taking this huge leap. And we want to hear from you this morning about what folks need to know about why you're running for candidate District 9, which is a neighborhood very near and dear to me. I live very close to there. I'm very familiar with that side of town and the issues that we're confronting over there. Why are you running, Nikki?
Well, thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate your words of encouragement and support. And honestly, you were one of the first people that I did tell when I was even thinking about running for Alder. So you have been on this journey with me this whole entire time. So I appreciate you so much. But hey, everybody, how's everyone doing? For me, my background is a little bit different from everybody else's, of course. That was what makes us unique. But I'm actually from a small town called Montello, Wisconsin. It's about an hour north of here. I moved to Madison when I was 18 years old. So I have been in Madison my whole entire adult life, which I just thought is half of my life. So it's so crazy how this has worked out for me. Coming from a small white town, having a white mother, a Black father, I've experienced a lot of racism. School was hard. It took people a while to accept me and who I was. And I really just felt lost because I didn't have that connection with any other Black folks except for my family. And most of my family lived in Madison my whole life. So once I got down here, I knew I was coming to the big city. I couldn't wait to get away from Montello. And come to find out, Madison was not that big. It was very, very small. Everybody knew each other. And I experienced a lot of the same things that I was experiencing in Montello. So I'm like, what the heck's going on? So that right there. And then I, had my kids and I'm like, I want something different for them. And so it took me to just really be that active person. I'm going to school, volunteering to read, field trips. I was that parent. I was involved. If you needed to get a hold of me, I'll be there. So that's what really, just having my kids at a young age, coming from a small town, I knew that I wanted bigger and better things for myself and my children. When I moved to the West, I currently live in Wexford Ridge, I found a community center and I'm like, what the heck's a community center? Like I had no idea. And I quickly got involved with the Lucia Community Education Center and that changed my life. It has given me so many opportunities. It's given my children so many opportunities. And I was just able to grow and develop into this neighborhood leader that I never knew I was. Everyone saw so much in me that I didn't see in myself. So I'm grateful for everyone who has invested in me and uplifted me. And that's what I'm really trying to do, is turn around and give that back to the community. I want to uplift and empower other people to run for government And also, I think we've all said this, but getting to the root of the problem. You know, we really need to get to the root of the problem. We can't keep putting Band-Aids over issues. We need to face those head on, open them up raw, and let's get down to the meat, you know. And I'm really passionate about kids and representing those voices that have been so often not heard. And yet I want my seat at the table, because people have always talked about us, Black women. We're the subject at the table, but yet we never have our spot at the table. And so it's important for me to really be that person, represent my community and all the folks of this district, and really just be there for one another in empowering and uplifting ways is most important for me. So that's what brought me here to this table.
Awesome. And you alluded to something that another candidate has mentioned before, the tale of two cities that Madison is. And we'd be amiss if we did not mention that that's often a huge part, not the only motivation that we have as Black women in leading and taking up the mantle of office, but certainly a significant part and a unique attribute of our leadership. And our intention is to equalize and make more equitable and just the world and the community that we live in. And that's our next question. We know that Madison and Dane County is a tale of two cities, and we've got enough research studies and data sets. The work of our organization talks, mostly about health disparities and the social and economic inequities that drive those. So we've got documentation, more documentation that we need. That's an indisputable fact that we are living in a tale of two cities. It's the best place to live for some, the worst place to live for others. Surface liberal, but struggles to practice what they preach. What do you see, Representative Stubbs, as the unique challenges of Madison and Dane County, and how will you address them if you're reelected?
Well, actually, I am reelected already. I got sworn in. We swore in virtually this year, the assembly. So I'm officially off in my second term here in the assembly. So I'm really appreciative for the constituents of the 77th Assembly District for reelecting me back to the state capitol. So I'm really honored to be back there. But there is legislation that I introduced last session that unfortunately was never taken up in the assembly. It was signed by all Democrats, including Governor Evers, Lieutenant Governor Barnes, and all of the cabinet members. However, I failed to get one Republican to sign on. Here's the bill. The bill was bill number 4063. And all I was trying to do was create the Office of Equity and Inclusion at the state level and create a council for equity and inclusion. Let's be clear. We must be intentional about our efforts. We must create an Office of Equity and Inclusion at the state level and actually create new jobs called equity specialists that will be working from every state agency. They will be the individual who can come to this council and tell us the pros, the cons, the issues that they're struggling with, and get paid to do equity work. I struggled to get Republicans on this bill because they didn't see that it was a problem in the state of Wisconsin. They don't think that there's a disparity issue. Well, in fact, Wisconsin is the worst state to raise a Black family. That is not something we created. It is something that was created. And now as African Americans, we are holding people accountable in office. This bill is so important because it addresses the staggering racial disparities in Wisconsin by ensuring that our state fosters inclusive environments for all people to work and to be successful. In fact, Governor Evers signed an executive order. My first year as a freshman getting an executive order by governor never happens. When I introduced that bill, community was standing with me. That's why I am the people's representative. You cannot do this work alone. You cannot forget those that struggle with you, those that have walked with you, those that believe in you, those that have invested in you. And so it was important when I introduced this piece of legislation that we had Secretary Krim standing there And we were actually at DSPS when we introduced the bill. This bill is so important because when we focus on equity at the state level, every municipality will be able to get the help that they need. I can say firsthand, I have been a leader in reforms at Dane County. In fact, Dane County created the first Office of Equity and Inclusion with my work. In fact, we named that office after a Black woman, Tamara D. Grigsby, who served at the state level. I named that office. So let's be clear about what is happening in Dane County. I knew we were in trouble. I'm a former probation parole agent. I saw we were in trouble. In fact, Urban League of Greater Madison wrote a book, The Tipping Point of Black Madison. So we knew we were in trouble. Black people knew we were in trouble, but we needed white people to validate the issues. So when the Race to Equity report was released, and then it was an aha moment. Now white people began to say, are we serious? Because it's in their backyard. And so I worked very quickly to make sure that we are putting the infrastructure, the framework in place. As a policy worker, that is my job. I write policy. And so that's what I've been working on. Hopefully this session, we're reintroducing the bill, and I hope we can get one Republican to join us in a bipartisan effort. So I will need your help. And when I reach out, please respond back, because it is important that all voices are represented in the state of Wisconsin.
Absolutely. And we know particularly when I posed the question, I didn't include all the details of many of the things that we know we're substantively dealing with in this tale of two cities, two counties, two states. Racial inequality, Wisconsin ranks first in the nation for racial inequality across the board. The Black-white wealth gap. We know we have tremendous housing insecurity among Black communities here in Dane County and across our state. We know that Black women experience the largest life expectancy gap here in the state of Wisconsin, and it's growing. We're highest in the nation for Black infant mortality, and we have a 5 times rate of maternal mortality for Black women, amidst all of the social, economic, and criminal justice inequities that we know exist as well. Brandy, how will your race, and if elected, address these issues that are unique to our community, but they're really community issues. They're not Black community issues. They're community issues that we need to solve.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And I just want to provide a quick analysis. The reason why I center Black needs, Black voices is because in the context of white supremacy, racism, there's a relationship, a dichotomy that automatically exists in everything we do, all people, activities, every decision we make. So in this relationship of white supremacy, automatically there's Black inferiority. So when we center Black people, we flip the hierarchy automatically. And when we flip the hierarchy, everybody else benefits. So that's why it's necessary when we discuss moves or policy or resolutions that Black people are centered. And we move away from, this is not, I don't want to be, combative. I just want to teach as I speak, right? That is why it's important to center Black people and move away from these frameworks of PIC or BIPAC or people of color, because we don't all exist within this context in the same way. We all don't have this relationship to white supremacy that must exist in order for white supremacy to be white supremacy. So let's just start there. And then I'll just add this, that our focus specifically in the District 14 has to be to move aggressively against gentrification and to make tough decisions about the projects that we fund and that we support that includes this private sector of development, right? We often employ private sector to develop affordable housing, and then our affordable housing isn't affordable at all. Right. So we get affordable housing where you have to pay $1,300, $1,400 a month for a 2-bedroom. That's just ridiculous. Right. So one, we need some mechanism and a response to acquire and buy up what they call bank land in District 14 so that we can utilize that land to develop affordable housing that's a permanent form affordable housing that has a cap at 30% of people's income so that we can truly have affordable housing. We also need home ownership programs that are accessible. We often fund programs without looking at the obstacles and barriers, and we celebrate them. We put millions into them. We say, oh, we got this homeowner product just for Black people and working class people, and no one qualifies. So we really need to be very strategic in how we develop programming that affects wealth, right? And specifically wealth in our Black community, because we understand that this idea in this conversation around safe and healthy communities is directly resulted to poverty, right? Directly resulted to people being desperate. Even our health, right? Our well-being, our mental, our biological system, our stress, our heart, all of that is directly related to our ability for housing security, right? Housing security has to come first. And also, I just want to encourage more, us to really look at our budget and line items and look at what works, right? What works to what programming or organizations or work that's being done in our community that's impactful and that folks know about and folks are talking about, and do our best to develop strategic partnerships, whether it's with churches, nonprofit organizations, to expand the capacity of these organizations. We like to fund things, initiative projects that are not working, but we do it for politics now, don't we? So we need to really look at the impact of what's working, what's shaping, the well-being of Black people. Because again, if we're shaping and focused on the well-being of Black people, guess who benefit? We all do. Brown people benefit, Asian people benefit, Latinos benefit, our LGBTQIA community, I probably messed up on that acronym, benefit, right? We all end up benefiting. And it is important, if we are looking to shift the paradigm and disconnect from the status quo, that are we willing to really build analysis around how the system operates and how we contribute to upholding the status quo of said system. So in Madison, I am running to do what I do best, and that is to shake things up, push the envelope, hold people accountable, and provide the transformational education and analysis that is needed for us to stop repeating and doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, like this overfunding of our police. Like, police cool, right? It's a job, we got you. And what we do know is that we fund police departments so much that it leaves no room for education, mental wellness service, impactful programming, alternative education. It leaves no room for anything. We just allocated, $200 million to a new jail, but we have a hard time finding money to help people around the pandemic and the triple pandemic, which I'll call COVID-19, economic insecurities and social injustices. We can't figure out where to get the money, but we know how to build a building that dehumanize, commodifies, and objectify people. So I'll be your council representative that would be moving us to this place of humanness outside of this prototype of humanness that we've all been conditioned to accept. And when I say this prototype, I mean whiteness. So that's what I'm here to do. So thank you for asking me the question.
Whoa, there's so many issues packed into the responses so far. We've heard the words affordable housing, which we know is very unaffordable. What you just said about the $1,300, $1,400 for a 2-bedroom apartment. I know that from my adult children who've just ventured out, and it was ridiculous as they were seeking, young professionals, these ridiculously high rents. Income insecurity. We know that we have a gap in employment in our city between our Black community and our white counterparts. Our unemployment rate is always 2 to 3 times higher. Gentrification on South Madison, gentrification on the East Washington corridor. These are conversations that are ongoing. We are happy to see projects like the Black Cultural Center at the corner of Badger and Park that the Nehemiah Corporation is developing. Those projects are important. We see the Urban League of Greater Madison making moves to do development on the South Madison corridor, and there are many others to name, but those are a minority of projects and investments. They need to become the norm in our city and our community. Nasra, how will your campaign and your leadership for your district address these inequities? Let us know.
Thank you, Lisa. And I think everyone talked about the issues in Madison. So the way I look into it is my intersectional approach stemming from diverse identity has allowed me to see issues from multiple perspectives. So as I go into this role, I look into, there's no one size fits all. So there's a district issue, there's people of color, you know, like or the Black, brown people or the underrepresented community issues, and also the city of Madison. Like Lisa, you alluded earlier, Madison can be the best place for some, but it can be the worst for others. So how we can make this Madison a vibrant, just for all. And my hope is to listen and to see what each intersectional area has its cause or issues. For example, like I talked about earlier, my district, the petty crime or youth criminal justice system is one of the issues. So hopefully that I can be able to talk about more and create solution-based issues, solution-based solution, so that that cannot be, you know, those young adults are not just put back into the criminal justice system. When I talk about the underrepresented community, what are the issues? Like you talked about the housing, the employment. We have so many talent of people of color, and they can't get jobs, and they can't, even if they get the jobs, they can't be in there because they are not welcome. They are not provided the space that they can thrive. They are not provided the opportunity for them to be in the C-level suites and all that. So how we can be very intentional in creating that space for our underrepresented community to have the opportunity for home ownership, educational, you know, advancement, economic development, businesses, and all that. And then finally, you know, what I look at it is like the Madison has such a, it's such a, you know, very vibrant, and it has a lot of resources that it can offer. So how we can tap in those resources. And my hope is I bring into 3 areas. One is partnership, developing strategic partnership to sustain relationships that lead to trust. So how we can be able to know what are there and what are the opportunities that we as an, you know, people of color can participate and can be part of it. Secondly is empathy. Our human capacity for empathy cultivates authentic and meaningful relationship and empowers collaboration. So when you are at the council, there are policies that will be brought to our table. So how we can be able to cross the aisle and communicate and collaborate with our colleagues so that the decision that we make impacts not only our district, but also the people that we represent. And finally is the social change, a commitment to understand issues of power, privilege within ourselves and our communities and within our institution in our social system. So I think it's educational, communication, collaboration, and all that. So because I think it's not one size fits on all, and hopefully, you know, living in Madison for over 30 years, I have seen the tremendous growth. The many times I have seen Madison is the best place to live. Madison is the best place to retire. Madison, but then it's not for all of us. So my hope is all those 3 areas. And when I'm making decisions, I'm not making decisions just on one, but I'm making decisions based on those 3. How it's affecting my district, how it's affecting my people of color or the underrepresented communities, and finally how it can be, how it can affect Madison to become more just and a city for everyone. Thank you.
That's wonderful, Nasrin. Thank you for breaking it down to your specific focuses. You said something that I truly believe in also. We know, and we talk about this often because we have to until we change the dynamic, that Madison is a tale of 2 cities, Wisconsin is a tale of 2 cities. But on the flip side, Madison is a beautiful place, right?
Yes,
It's
yes.
a resource-rich city with wonderful people who are super committed. The community engagement and activism and the care that people have for this city and the quality of life, that's real, that's authentic. But we need to bring it together so that it works for everyone. And I do think that this is our opportunity. We've been saying to folks, this next decade is really the time where a transformation and a transition in Madison's and Wisconsin's narrative have to take place. This is our chance to really create the city that works for everyone. And that really means everyone, because we know as you're running for office as Black women, yes, we're running on issues that we care about deeply for our particular communities that we identify with, but you're running for office to represent everyone in your district. And that requires everyone to understand the issues that impact everyone so that we can bring a community into bear that really works for everyone. And I think if anywhere this can be accomplished, it can be accomplished in Greater Madison. I think we have an opportunity if we get out of our own way and we address racism head on and inequality, Madison can become the torchbearer for what it means to really create a city that works for everyone. So we thank you all because we know that's the work that you're about to do and that you're actively doing. It's just bigger than one issue. It is transforming a city and a state into a place that works for everyone. So we honor you for taking up that responsibility. Aaliyah, do we hear anything in the chat as we approach the last 15 minutes of our call today? What are we hearing?
We're hearing a lot. The number one thing is like you're hearing from these amazing, beautiful, powerful women and just really wanting to know, when do we vote? Who is my Alder person? And so thank you, Brandy, for putting information on how to contact or how to identify who your Alder person is. And then we also put in the chat the dates for the primaries for folks who have someone running against them, and then the election for those who don't. Trying to find it right quick, but I think it's April 6th for the folks who, for the election date, and February 16th for the primary. So mark your calendars on those days and vote for your Alder. So that's the number one thing that's kind of happening in the chat. But people are just agreeing with and supporting the words of our candidates here today, and just really appreciative.
All right, we're going to shift right now to doing rapid fire answers. So I'm going to instruct everyone so that we can get, for these things, we need a 2-hour call. And I think somebody on our team told us to make this call 2 hours, but I said, I can't be on a call for 2 hours, but next time we'll know better. We'll have a 2-hour call. But we want to do rapid fire answers from you all. So if you can keep your answers to 1 minute or less so that we can hear from everyone. We wanted to give the opportunity for Charlie and Nikki to weigh in on the last question on how your campaign will address the tale of two cities, the racial inequities, economic, social inequities in your district and citywide. Charlie.
Yes, I'm gonna, one of the things I've been doing to raise awareness and to change the narrative in my city has been being in the communities of storytellers. Because I believe the experiences that we share in the environments that are open and inclusive, where we have allies, where they give us presence, I believe it's important to share that. So I'm gonna briefly tell 2 stories. My mother moved here as a single mom to the south side of Madison. I grew up right off Park Street. I was 6 years old when my best friend was murdered. Attended Lincoln Elementary. Not much is done on that side of town when these things happen. I got to learn that really quickly. The crimes that were committed against my neighbors and against my family members that were not followed up with the police, those things didn't leave my forming. They didn't escape who I was. When I left Madison, I moved down south, and then I moved up to the Northwest with this belief that the state street that I walked down in high school, where I could go by places where guys with blue mohawks were playing chess with guys who were senators in a coffee shop owned by a young Black man, I thought Madison was this place of transformation. I thought Martin Luther King's dream that I was taught about in school was happening in Madison. And I took that belief with me to the South and Northwest when I left. But my story changes there, because although I had learned these subversions and perversions in Madison, I left with hopes and with visions and dreams of who I could be with these experiences. When I came back, I was a professional. I was a teacher. I went into, worked as a business development person for a small boutique law firm where I learned there are so many laws that are unjust, that create divisions. There are so many legislations performed by people who don't know my experiences, people who are saying they're speaking for me, but then they are writing laws that bury my voice. And I learned these inequities, and then it hit me. I speak very openly about how I am a victim of Madison's opioid crisis. I was attacked by a person. It broke my throat, broke my vocal cords, took me a while to learn how to talk, and by darn it, I sing again. But this is why one of my taglines is Rise with Ro. I was in the Madison that hosted Maya Angelou. I got to speak with her personally. That formed me, that powerful voice who wrote Rise. I got to go to the UW-Madison to see Dizzy Gillespie play. I got to be taken out to dinner by the Reverend Jesse Jackson when I lived here. These are my experiences that formed me. But when I was attacked and PTSD took over, and I found myself as a bartender on the east side of Madison, who was then again attacked by a local business owner, the police officers told me, we don't want to take him downtown. He's a good guy. They didn't even take him to detox. Read the reports. My life was turned upside down. Suddenly, all of these things that our country and our nation and our Blackness are dealing with, suddenly I was on the downside, the side that I believed Madison had passed. Now I was finding myself somewhere between these two cities. I had the capacity to thrive here. I've learned the hard way what a token I was. The very same business that hired me to do their business development also fired me because they couldn't deal with somebody with PTSD. And my coworker said, well, I'm surprised that they hired a Black person in the first place. I know firsthand that I am not alone in these experiences. I know that as I have been healing, as I have been changing and growing, as I've been working with people to give them power within themselves to come through these experiences, I'm not alone. I know every woman that is here right now has dealt with some part of these inequities. I mean, our platforms are food inequities. Why is Madison saying $17 an hour is what it takes to make it for an average person, but then we start losing benefits at $10 an hour as a single working mom of 2 kids? There's legislation that needs to be changed. We're the ones that have the experiences. I'm tired of being underestimated. I am tired of my diversity, and my varied way of getting to where I am has been undermined and subverted. And I know I'm not alone. And the people that signed their names to my nomination, the people that are now supporting me, they want me in office. And I want to see the other voices that have come from different experiences, but we want the same thing. One of the last, very quickly wrapping up, one of the last things that I did before COVID hit was I started something called Fresh Vision 2020. And it was Crow Collective's personal thing. My first thing was a Martin Luther King respect event. And I wanted to showcase the voices of Black artists and musicians and youth. And we did well, but it was mostly attended by whites. But they supported us. The next thing I did was an International Women's Day. And the tagline for that year, 2020, was each is equal. I look at Nasra, I look at Aaliyah, I look at Brandy, I look at all these women, and I know we are each equal in our experiences, not in who we are now, if we are dividing ourselves, but we are each equal, and we each have a right to be at that table to bring our voice and to impact the lives of our children and the people that are here now who have not had that voice. And that is what I want to bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Nikki, your way in. How will you address the inequities and many of the issues we've talked about? I know that you're on the ground working with these very explicit issues that we're talking about. We know you've been actively involved in housing security issues, tenant rights, a lot of things in your neighborhood that are very explicitly meaningful for the residents of your district. How will you address those and other areas that we need to bring up in our community.
Thank you, Lisa. Great question. You know, I don't want to take up too much time. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. So I'm just going to give you the short form. Being involved in the community, having our basic needs met is what our community needs, what any community needs. We need to have housing, food, employment, and education. And if we really invest into our community, I mean, I'm a living proof of this. The community invested in me, Lucia Community Education Center, the Neighborhood Organizing Institute. They invested in me, and they put the skills in me and help develop my leadership, so I'm able to go out here and share that with other people of my community. So really just digging in deep, diving into this community, protecting our children. They're our future. We need to make sure that they have what they need to be successful, to run this country when we leave it. Really just making sure when we have our basic needs met, if we have housing, if we have food and education, we're healthy, right? And so in turn, we're going to be safer. Investing in a community, healthier communities equals safer communities. We need to make sure that everybody has what they need in order to be uplifting and empowering other people, because together we rise.
I love that. That was so succinct, and you said it. I mean, we're still talking about people having their basic needs met in our community. We should not be talking about basic needs being met in 2021. And we see comments in the chat. Maddie Reese, we hear you loud and clear about segments of our community being forgotten, are truly communities that have been dispossessed, ignored, that don't have basic needs. You know, all of these campaigns that all of you are running, we know will address those. And we feel that higher aspiration also of shifting the dynamics that cause people to not have their basic needs met. So dealing with the economic injustices and inequities and leveling that so that everyone has access to affordable housing. These are things you said, Nikki: affordable housing, income security, living wage employment, all those pieces, home ownership, business ownership. Brandy, you spoke about safety, food, education, income, safety. Charlie spoke about safety and these other pieces, and access to opportunities so that they can do what they want to do and need to do to support themselves and their families. We're still trying to get there for a huge segment of our community in Greater Madison, and that is a very unique struggle. But we feel very hopeful and promising about what will come to bear with the leadership of these 5 women who are running on this call, including Maya Pearson, who is running for a school district against Madison School Board. We want to give you, Maya, an opportunity to speak quickly about your campaign, about what you care about how you'll be addressing this from the perspective of schooling and our children's future. How are you today?
Good morning. I was actually not expecting to speak, but definitely I'll just keep it quick. So I ran in the last election last year, and also put my name in the hat the year before that for school board, and now I'm running unopposed this year. Basically, it's the same, like everyone on this call has already mentioned about how this tale of 2 cities has happened. Also grew up in Madison, so definitely experienced it at every level. But, for me, my priorities have not changed. I mean, I think that COVID-19 has created this opportunity for us to really reimagine the way in which we educate our children and educate specifically our Black children, and how education affects them, and how we can definitely change it. So I would definitely love to work more on community partnerships and having community more invested into our schools in a way that is beneficial for our babies and make sure that they feel safe in the environment. Definitely still care about teachers, and I'm really excited that I'll be able to work with a new superintendent and work on some of the issues that I definitely pushed for in last election, which was the new reading curriculum that was really science-based for our children and not just only focused on phonics. And so I definitely believe that it will elevate our children's reading scores. And then also too, I'm excited to be able to work on making all day 4K a reality. And I think that it is a great equalizer for our babies as well. So those are some of the things that I'm excited to work on this come April.
We are very excited to hear that. We know that our community has been dealing with a persistent achievement gap, which we know is connected to opportunity gaps and family security gaps and all the things that we've talked about in terms of income, employment, opportunity. It's all linked together. These aren't separate domains that are disconnected. They're all part of a big cycle of inequity that we're all working on multiple fronts to address. Maya, we congratulate you already for what you will do. As a member of our school board, we thank you for your persistence and staying power and coming back and being committed to being in this role. So we look forward to being a member of the school board and to address these issues that you've alluded to around our children's academic performance. Amidst all of the pieces that each of these candidates have talked about, the things that families really need to be stable, secure, and thriving in our community. With that, we are at time. We want to give every guest the opportunity, and I really mean it, you all. I'm talking 10 seconds, 10 seconds to give us maybe a closing remark about what you're most hopeful about in your campaign that you know and are committed to achieving that will transform our community. What would be that one thing that you want to leave us with in terms of the vision you want us to walk away from this call about how and what Madison can truly be? And I'm going to go on a straight line, starting with Nazra, based on who I see on my screen.
Thank you again, and thanks everyone who joined this morning. One thing I'll say is to become an effective alder for my district, for my community, and for the city of Madison.
Awesome, and we wish you luck in your campaign, Nazra, and thank you for running.
Thank you.
Representative Stubbs.
I am hopeful because I have God on my side, and with God, all things are possible. In addition, I really think that we must address the inequities of criminal justice reforms. We must address the inequities of housing and inequities of health, inequities of juvenile delinquency. There are so many areas right now that we need to address, but we cannot address that until we really get folks in the room at the table and our decision makers and can vote. Only when you can vote in these spaces will it make a difference. You can scream, holler, yell all you want. You can get in any streets, you can get in any White House until you are sitting in that seat and elected to make that decision. Will it count? Thank you.
Absolutely. And Representative Stubbs, you alluded to something that I will call your office to talk about that we really need to address here in Dane County, and that is the system for families in need that find themselves in our family courts and our child protective services domains, and how these are connected to the overrepresentation of Black children in foster care and the disunification of Black families that is a major issue in our county system. I would love to talk with you about that. I know that you're engaged around that issue. We need major headway on those issues in the next decade. So we look forward to speaking with all of you about those issues as you seek office. Brandy.
What was the question again?
Your closing thoughts on what you're hopeful about and how you will, what needs to transform or what you're hopeful about transforming.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I am hopeful for the change that we've already been able to create in Madison. If we're paying attention to what's happening in the fabric and the conversations, we literally have people out here saying white supremacy, patriarchal capitalism, okay, and that is not the conversation that we were having 5 years ago. And I think that's a telltale to where we're going and where we know we need to go. And as a candidate and your next alder person, let me just say that I will be your next alder person. I will ground my work in my communication with my constituents in education. Transformational education is everything, y'all. In order for us to understand where we're going, we have to understand where we've been and how we got there, and right, and including everyone. Like when we talk about centering Black people, that doesn't mean that we eliminate everyone else. It just means centering the needs of Black people, so that, as Lisa pointed out, so that when we deal with this elephant in the room, then we actually can move and paradigm shift in a powerful, impactful way to deal with all the issues, economic issues, job wages, housing, criminal justice. We must be able to face the elephant in the room, that the criminality of Black people is tied to white supremacy, right? The education system, the way that we do things. If we can't develop and deal with and accept and acknowledge what that is, then everything that we create outside of or within the context of white supremacy will be using the master tools, and we will build the same thing. So we have to be willing to push the envelope and push ourselves and our own analysis and move from this place of all lives matter, right? Because in the making of America, politics and politics, all lives don't matter. So I'll just say that. Thank you again for having me. Oh, and put your money where your mouth is, okay, y'all? Y'all need to donate. Find my link, donate to the campaign. And we need to endorse Black candidates, right? Your action and your words is everything. If you're endorsing white candidates and in opposition of Black candidates, we really need to have a conversation and a coming to terms, right? If there's two Black candidates, like my seat running, then endorse us both. I don't want you to choose, but we have to be willing to be bold, right? To say, yes, I'm supporting this campaign. I'm supporting these people, because we can't say we want change by sitting on the sidelines. So show up. I need volunteers. We need phone banking. I know Nikki needs some money in phone banking. Okay, Nikki? Okay. So go ahead, dig in y'all pockets and make it work. And thank you again for having me.
Okay, Brandy just put it all out there for you all to donate, support, put your money where your mouth is, volunteer, phone bank, do it all. You can reach the candidates. I think we dropped the information in the chat on how you can reach them. And if you didn't get it there, it's a quick Google search. Just search up each of their names and they will come up in the search engine. Charlie, your closing comments. What are you hopeful about for the transformation of our community? As Brandy said, you all are really building a new thing. That's what this is all about. And I'm very hopeful about the building and constructing of a new thing for Madison. What are you hopeful about?
Absolutely. I am really hopeful. And before we go, again, thank you, Lisa, and everybody here. I'm really hopeful about going to that next step of the vision. There's no doubt in my mind that we have shaken up our neighbors. We've woke them up. Ally has now become an action word. And if you are in District 3, I want you to ally with me. I want you to vote on April 6th. Rise with Roe is what I'm saying, but it's also, I've been using Let's Ride Together. So go get that sweatshirt also. The link's in there. I love it. I'm trying to get mine here, but really I want this. I want the people in Madison that have lived the experiences to be empowered. I want you guys to go and register to vote if you haven't, but I know voters are weary. I know there's so much going on, but the municipal level, Common Council is where we affect the change that directly affects us. And this is where we can change the narrative and leave a different legacy for our city. So please vote for the women, the candidates. I say women because go y'all, but vote and make it powerful, do it with intent, and let's change our city.
Awesome, awesome. Let's change our city. We see you. Yes, transformation and transition. Brandy says lived experiences equal important. We see folks dropping in their fundraising links. Nikki, what are your closing comments on how we can transform our city?
Unmute. What I really hope to be is really be that voice, that new young voice that's so desperately needed in District 9, to represent all the folks of my district and fight for that power for everybody to have. With my neighborhood organizing skills, I know that I can effectively advocate and communicate with all of my constituents. Being a mother, community activist, I have the skills needed to bring change. So all I need for everyone is to vote for me on February 16th. I have primaries against 3 men, and I'm the only color of a candidate of color and a mother. So I need everyone to get out there and exercise your right to vote. You can find out more information at nikki.vote.
Awesome. And with that, we want to congratulate you all again. We want to thank you for running. We know it's a sacrifice of time, of effort. We know all of you have families, you got day jobs, you might have night jobs too, and you're out here managing campaigns in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has to be interesting. It is an act of service to run for office, and it's often a thankless job. Folks don't understand the dedication, especially as I think about you, Representative Stubbs, and the service that you've been giving for over so many years. We thank all of you for what you have done and will do. With that, we'll ask Aaliyah to recap for us those dates that we need to remember around voting. We've heard 2 days thrown out. Can you recap that, Aaliyah, and plug one more time our important events that we want folks to be engaged in this month?
Way ahead of you. Already reposted all this in the chat, but I will verbally say it for those of us watching live on Facebook. The upcoming election schedules: polling places open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. The spring primary election is February 16th, Tuesday, February 16th for those who have an opponent. And the spring election is Tuesday, April 6th as well. So please have those dates. Also, again, pick up your shirt, Together We Rise, and other options at Pink Lily. I put the link in there, but there's a specific group of shirts that will support the Foundation for Black Women's Wellness up to $20,000, 100% of proceeds up to $20,000. Also, let's all get well, let's get in shape, let's make it happen. So please join us. Classes start tomorrow. We're starting with yoga, y'all. We're slowly getting ourselves back into the swing of things. Please sign up for Project Live Well. We will see you bright and early tomorrow morning. We can do it. And most importantly, for me, February, Heart Month. Please, please, please join us for Wear Red Day. Heart disease is the #1 killers of Americans and women. Black women, of course, at the greatest risk. You're not too young ever, y'all. I was 26 years old. I want to keep on repeating that. So we choose life. Get informed, inspired, empowered with us on February 20th at 10 a.m. Central. It will be a good time. 2 hours, y'all. Could change your life, could save your life. So that's what's going on. And also, don't forget the Itty Bitty Bookstore in Stoughton. Please join and visit, get your books. There's also other things to shop for online. They have a great website. Check them out.
And you know what? Just one plug on the transformation. As Brandy said, Madison is changing, as Representative Stubbs can see change over all the years. And all of you who've been in the community so long, who've grown up here, been here since you were young children. There's a Black bookstore owned by a Black woman in Stoughton. Did you hear that? Have you driven through Stoughton? I used to work and live in Dane County years ago, and I had to drive out to Stoughton to visit clients when I was working in the social services. There is a Black bookstore in Stoughton, Wisconsin. That is progress. And there are many examples of that. Just the existence of the Foundation for Black Women's Wellness, of Urban Triage, of many of the nonprofits that many of us have founded and are leading in our community. That's no small thing for this city and this county and this state. And we just want to acknowledge that we've been pushing and that we are making progress and that we are changing. We know that change needs to speed up and it needs to widen and expand, but we also need to acknowledge along the way as we go that we are making progress because we are creating that progress. With that, we want to thank all of our guests for being here today. We want to thank Representative Sheila Stubbs. Someone asked if we could put the correct link for Representative Stubbs' website in the chat. They were having trouble reaching it. We want to thank Nazra Wehelie, candidate for District 7, Brandy Grayson, candidate for Alder District 14, Charlie Rowe, candidate for Alder District 3, Nikki Conklin, candidate for Alder District 7, and Maya Pearson, who is running again for Madison School Board. Remember, February 16th for the primary, April 6th for the election. We will see you at the polls or talk about having been at the polls with you based on how that shakes out. With that, we thank you for being with us today. We thank you who stayed over with us. We'll probably reach back and have some follow-up conversations with each of our candidates before Election Day. And we wish you luck in your run. With that, know thyself, love thyself, heal thyself, Our wellness begins with us, and we already have the power. Have a great week, you guys. Take good care. Bye. Oh, wait, I need a screenshot. I need a screenshot. You guys are beautiful. There we go. I took my picture.
You didn't even let us prepare, but okay, bye.
Smile, smile. Come on, smile, y'all.